So we're doing the virtues for this moral theory. And actually this is more, I wouldn't say one of the easier ones, but it's a little more accessible when you get through your ethical dilemmas. So let's get right into this one. So this is your moral theory. Who you're going to have is Aristotle. Aristotle is one of our earliest philosophers we have in this field. He's going to follow two very famous philosophers, Plato and Socrates. Plato being the student of Socrates and Aristotle being the student of Plato. So what Plato is going to say in contrast is to his predecessors is happiness, fairness, equality, all of that is a big part of society. But each individual is always looking to be happy. They're trying to find what he calls eudaimonia. And this is the good of happiness and the ability to be successful and to thrive and to find purpose. Now, he does say that this happiness, though, is in constant flux and it changes with every single situation. And the best way to kind of navigate these ethical dilemmas is to try to navigate right through the middle of everything. You never want to be too extreme because those are considered your vices. And the virtues will always land right in the middle. So the criticism to this is everybody's going to have a different middle. Everyone's going to have different extremes. And he acknowledges that. And he says in all things that you must find moderation within your own self. The key to happiness in your ideal life is moderation and to put it out in a logical way. So virtues is different than the rest of them because in all of the other theories, you're acting out your moral code. You are making choices and you're picking A or B because, you think this is good or evil or right or wrong. For Aristotle, it's not that simple. He believes that the core of someone's personality, the core of their character rests in their habits, what they do when nobody's looking, and what they fall back to when they're in their cozy sweatpants. That's who that person is. And the more you work on your virtuous behavior in those habits, in those cozy sweatpants, defines who you are as a person. So he says here in this quote, it is our choice of good or evil that determines our character, not our opinion of it. Because he said you could have an opinion of what it means to be right or wrong, or what it means to be happy or sad or sinful and evil. He was like, but you could have these opinions, but how you act on these, that defines who your character is. In Aristotle's Virtues, which you'll read about, he actually outlines what he thinks are going to be the golden mean. The golden mean is the balance between two vices, and he'll outline these. And of course, you could contemplate or discuss back and forth what are these virtues and what are these vices and how they present themselves in different situations. But he is going to argue that the virtues are not going to change. Now, there might be hundreds of virtues, but there are going to be just a handful that are sacred and that they will not change in any situation that you're coming up to. He brings up courage, the courage to even have the audacity to live this lifestyle is the paramount virtue, but generosity, ambition and modesty and friendship and temperance, these are all virtues in of themselves. And the more you strive for those in your habits, the better off you're going to be. So for the virtues when it comes to your ethical dilemma, unlike the other ones where it's going to be, their moral theory is going to be applied pretty blanket for each one because they pretty much just have, like a book of ideas of what their theory is. Virtues is very, very different. It changes by situation. It changes by era, by region, by culture, by religion, because virtues happens in the habits, not in the act of contemplating, okay, I'm going to do this tomorrow, but I'm not going to do it the next day. He says that it's over time when you're always striving for that golden mean and you're weighing the options in each situation. For example, I found this right here that I thought was a really good example. It talks about a business owner who has billions of dollars of profits, but he only annually gives the minimum he has to avoid being taxed. So in that, Aristotle he might look at his chart and be like, is this greed? Is this pride? Is this, impulsiveness? Is this rashness? Is this extravagance? What is he doing with that money? What is he doing with the thoughts and concerns of his employees? So he would have to be thinking about that. Is he a generous person, or is he stingy with his money? Is he rash in his thinking, or is he finding courage to think about how he's going to impact the people around him? Because not only with Aristotle's meme are you trying to do it for yourself, it should be pushed out to the people around you. You should be a reflection of these positive, virtuous habits. So when you're going through these ethical dilemmas, you are looking at each person involved. You're taking all of the information into context. And even if I put in front of you 3 different abortion cases, each one of those cases are going to be very different because you have different people involved, different situations involved, and it's never going to be a blanket thing like, look, for the virtues, we always handle euthanasia this way. We always handle virtues this way. Or we always handle euthanasia this way. We always handle abortion this way. No, because with virtues, it's situational based, and you're constantly striving to make sure that you're providing happiness to all parties involved to the situation. The point is to try and find a positive outcome so the persons involved can thrive and continue to push forward into finding their own happiness and practice the virtues on their own. So if you do have virtues, like I said, this is a little bit a harder one because you might not know where to start. So I do have a handful of things for you. So what I have for you are a few things. There's this first 2 websites explain what I'm talking about, like what is eudaimonia, what is the good, what is virtues, and then I do have his primary source. Now let me show it to you. As usual, we're not going to get through these 2,000-year-old manuscripts without being in font 2. So when you open up this PDF, you're going to look at about 182 pages at font 4. It is e-reader accessible, and it has all of his collections. Now, let me show you what those collections are. So this is how it breaks up for us. Yay! But I'll give you a hint. He specifically talks about the virtues throughout this entire thing, but specifically about eudaimonia and virtues in book 5, which I think I saw was around page 25. Yeah, so he starts talking about what is the virtues, and he talks about our passions, our emotions, our faculties. He's talking about our mind, the state of our character. That's us when we're in our habits. And then he continues to talk about what each one of them are. So I suggest that you go into book 5 and you just kind of take it all in so you get an idea where your frame of mind is. And then when you go into your ethical dilemma, you have that book 5 information kind of rattling around in your mind, and you're like, okay, how do I calmly and assertively, with generosity and courage and good humor and friendship, handle this ethical dilemma? So that's kind of the basis of where you want to kind of keep your mind at when you do these. And of course, I'm always here for all of your questions, so please message me.